Sold your laptop for your sister's phone. Be grateful. Dad texted me. On my birthday. I blinked at the screen, rereading the words over and over, hoping they might rearrange themselves into something less brutal. But they didn't. The digits on the lock screen flipped from 7:59 to 8 a.m., marking the exact moment I officially turned 22, and realized I didn't exist in this house unless I was useful. Downstairs, laughter rose from the kitchen. Hailey's voice rang out, sweet and high-pitched, announcing something about her brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. The exact words from Dad's message burned into the back of my mind like a scar. Sold your laptop. For your sister's phone. I sat up slowly in bed, heart pounding in that hollow, stunned way it does when the truth finally smothers your excuses. You won't need permission to matter, Grandma Evelyn had once told me, brushing a strand of hair from my cheek. One day you'll understand. That day had come. The floor creaked as I padded to the kitchen. The scent of cinnamon waffles should have been comforting, but it only tightened the knot in my stomach. Dad was at the head of the table, laughing at something Hailey had shown him on her phone. My laptop paid for that device, and now she was using it to stream TikToks. Marianne stood by the stove, flipping eggs. She looked at me briefly, then down at her pan as if my presence physically hurt her eyes. I noticed my laptop's missing, I said, voice steady despite the storm behind it. Dad didn't look up. It was a family decision, Avery. Hailey needed a new phone for her schoolwork. You're barely using that laptop anymore. My chest clenched. I was using it to apply for graduate programs. Hailey snorted. To read weird articles and write sad little poems. Dad chuckled at that, like it was funny, like it wasn't cruel. You always talk about sacrifice, he said. Well, this is what it means to be part of a family. Hailey waved her phone in the air. It even has a better camera now. You can literally see every pore. Like, is that not a birthday miracle or what? Birthday. The word snapped in my chest like a rubber band. I didn't get a birthday cake, I said quietly. Marianne wiped her hands on a towel. I was going to bake one later. Just then, Hailey opened the fridge and pulled out a small box. Ta-da, she grinned. Look what Mom picked up this morning. On top of the box was a cake with Happy Late 19th, Hailey, written in pink cursive. I blinked. That was from the bakery mix-up, Mom said weakly. They printed the wrong name. But Hailey was already slicing into it, unfazed. I turned and walked back upstairs. The silence in my room was deafening. I dropped onto the floor by my nightstand and pulled open the drawer. There, untouched and slightly yellowed around the edges, was the final letter from Grandma Evelyn. I hadn't been ready to read it after her funeral. But now every fiber in my body screamed for her voice. I unfolded the page carefully. Dear Avery, if you're reading this, it means you need a reminder. You are not invisible. When people try to shrink you, it's because they fear how much space you might take if you stood fully upright. Stand, sweetheart. Even if no one claps. My hands trembled as I set the letter down. A hollow sound floated up the stairs. Hailey's voice, live streaming again. I stepped toward the door and paused. She'll understand, she was saying. She always falls in line. It wasn't just ignorance anymore. It was a deliberate choice to erase me. They weren't oblivious. They were architects of my absence. I stared at the duffel bag in the closet. No rage, no sobbing, just clarity. I packed a few clothes, my wallet, the letter, and walked downstairs. No one looked up. Not even when the door closed behind me. She silently packs a bag and leaves. No one stops her, not even her mother. No one texted, no one called. Just me, a backpack, and the silence they left behind. The motel room light buzzed overhead like it was nervous for me. The air smelled of bleach and wet curtains like someone had tried to scrub the past out of this place but didn't quite succeed. I dropped my backpack on the cracked faux wood nightstand and sank onto the lumpy bed, the springs groaning under the weight of my disbelief. I hadn't cried. Not when I walked out. Not when I passed the mailbox that still had my name on it. Not when I paid for a single night in cash because I didn't want a paper trail leading back to Dad. But now, in this tiny box of a room off Highway 64, I stared at the sealed envelope with Grandma Evelyn's name written in blue cursive, and everything swelled at once. She used to say, "The world will try to forget girls like you. Don't let it." The letter had waited for months in my drawer. Waited through birthdays missed and arguments dodged. It had survived while I didn't. With a breath held tight in my chest, I broke the seal. "My brilliant girl," it began. "I know you're probably reading this because something cracked open. I'm sorry I'm not there. But you are. You always have been." My throat tightened. "Do you remember the project we built? The learning model with the color-coded benchmarks and gamified assessments?" I kept it. I believed in it. I knew it could help other kids the way you helped me understand my own limits. That's your legacy, not just a school paper. Yours. I pressed the page to my heart and exhaled slowly, letting the words fill in the fractures. She was talking about the curriculum I had worked on in high school, a full adaptive tutoring framework I built for my senior capstone. It had been simple, intuitive, and at the time dismissed by everyone except Grandma. I thought it was gone when my laptop disappeared. But maybe not. I grabbed my phone, thumbed through Gmail, searched Diagnostic Project Draft. There it was, a dusty little email from 3 years ago with a PDF attachment and embedded code snippets. Still mine. I opened it, fingers tingling. The layout still looked clean. Color-coded goals, progress bars, early intervention alerts. I hadn't touched it since graduation, but somehow it still pulsed with potential. I clicked open a browser tab and pulled up an old tutoring platform I hadn't used in years. My profile still existed. I changed the headline. Academic coaching with adaptive tools, designed by me. A few photo updates, some revised bio lines, a free sample session link, and it was live. By evening, a request popped up. A high school junior needed help with pre-calc. I booked it. I wasn't ready, but I said yes anyway. Saying no had gotten me nowhere. The knock came around 9:30 p.m. I peeked through the curtain, half expecting Dad's car. Instead, I saw a face I hadn't thought about in years. "Jessie?" I opened the door, stunned. Jessie Green, glasses fogged, hoodie soaked from the drizzle, grinned like she hadn't just materialized out of nowhere. "I saw your tutoring ad, recognized your profile pic, figured this dusty motel on Carter's Bend might be the place you'd hide. You always liked irony." I laughed, an actual laugh, and let her in. She handed me her phone. "Before you say anything, you need to see this." The website loaded slowly over motel Wi-Fi, but the name slapped me instantly. Collins Academy. A polished homepage opened, showcasing vibrant dashboards, progress trackers, achievement badges, all built on a structure I knew in my bones, because I built it. Same layout, same functions, even the same pale teal accents I used to tease Grandma for calling ocean toothpaste. At the bottom of the page, in small italic font, "A Vision Brought to Life by Hailey Collins." I blinked. No way she could have. "She did," Jessie said. And it gets worse. She tapped into her Gmail and pulled up a forwarded message. Jessie adds, "You should see the email she sent." I saved it. I didn't exist in any family photo, but I saw my words, my diagrams, my work, alive and repurposed under her brand. The public library on Main had always smelled faintly of pencil shavings and mildew. Today, it smelled like purpose. The rain whispered against the windows like it was trying not to interrupt. I sat in the far corner by the outlet, the only heat in the room coming from the steady pulse of vindication in my chest. Jessie slid into the seat across from me and dropped a manila envelope on the table like it was evidence in a crime drama. Printed everything, including the one she tried to unsend. I pulled out the first sheet, a forwarded email thread from Hailey's university PR contact. "Please avoid attributing any curriculum design to my sister Avery. She's emotionally volatile and not to be involved in this project. Happy to send revised talking points. Unstable, I whispered, my stomach curling. She sent that 2 weeks ago. I only caught it because the rep is a friend of a friend. Hailey didn't realize people still forward emails. My jaw clenched. I reached into my backpack and laid out my arsenal on the table. Grandma's letter, the original, folded but intact. PDF files from the diagnostic project. My formatting, my notes, my color-coded benchmarks. Screenshots of draft dates from 2020, time-stamped and backed up to Drive. A side-by-side printout of Hailey's website versus my original mock-ups. Same structure, same icons. She hadn't even changed the font. The library clerk raised an eyebrow as I approached the printer for the third time. I offered a tight smile. Portfolio materials, I said. Jessie leaned over, scanning the visuals. It's uncanny, like plagiarism with glitter. I nodded. She repackaged my future and handed it to herself with a bow. I don't get how your parents don't see this. They do, I muttered. They just call it helping family. Jessie was quiet for a long moment before she said, You know, I was one of your first students. I blinked. What? In junior year. You tutored me in Algebra 2. For free. Every Thursday after school. You had this system with colored index cards. Green for concepts, red for errors. That's how I learned derivatives. She smiled. You're the reason I passed math. And probably the reason I didn't give up on college apps. My throat tightened. You're more than the version they wrote out, she added. The printer beeped its final job complete. I walked back to gather the pages, hands trembling slightly from more than just the cold. Then I saw it, near the bottom of Grandma's letter in faint but unmistakable pen. All educational content co-developed with Avery belongs solely to her. Evelyn Ruth Collins. Her signature. Her legal, loopy signature, the same one that used to scrawl across checks and birthday cards. Proof. No disclaimers, no shared copyright, no for the family. Just mine. It took me a moment to process that I wasn't hallucinating. Jessie leaned in. That's it. That's the clause. I stared at it, unable to speak. The room around me blurred, sharpened, then blurred again. This wasn't just about plagiarism now. It was about rights, about legal inheritance, about intentional theft. My phone buzzed. Voicemail. I pressed play on speaker, too stunned to care. Hi, sweetheart, came Mom's voice, brittle as glass. Look, I know things have been tense, but please let it go. Don't ruin Thanksgiving for the rest of us. Jessie's eyes met mine. She doesn't get it, does she? Number she didn't, but she would. The proof wasn't in my voice. It was in my grandmother's ink, and they knew it. Clara Bishop's office smelled like oak furniture, printer toner, and justice. She sat across from me in a crisp navy suit, her glasses perched low as she examined the folded parchment I had unwrapped with the care of a relic. The note from Grandma Evelyn, once dismissed as just a silly letter, was now spread out under a magnifier lamp beside the curriculum files, the printouts, and the time-stamped screenshots. Her assistant scanned each page into a sleek black machine with military precision. Clara's eyes moved quickly, but her hands were still. This handwriting is legally distinctive. She wrote in cursive loops that break right before the tail connects. See here? That's registered in 2 documents we've already authenticated. I said nothing, just nodded. My chest was buzzing in a way that made me feel unsteady. Part relief, part fury. And this line, she pointed with a capped pen to the exact phrase etched in Grandma's voice. All preparatory materials co-developed with Avery Collins shall be attributed solely to her. She paused, then read it aloud. I swallowed hard. Something inside me cracked open at the sound of another person saying those words with reverence instead of dismissal. She meant to protect you, Clara said, gently setting the letter aside. And lucky for both of you, she knew how to write a clause with teeth. I gave a small, exhausted laugh. My mother said it was nothing. that it was just another one of her dreamy tangents. She was wrong, Clara replied, matter of fact. And now we prove it. She pressed a few keys on her tablet, pulling up a draft form titled Notice of Copyright Ownership and Inherited IP Rights. My name sat at the top in bold, followed by Evelyn Ruth Collins, not as co-author, but as source. This, once filed, will be legally binding. No need to sue immediately. We'll submit the ownership notice through the Copyright Office and register the design blueprints. Then we'll email the Collins Academy with a cease and desist. Not hostile, just factual. I stared at the screen, then said quietly, I want her name on the record. Grandma's, not just mine. Clara looked up. That can be arranged. Joint legacy. Yours in action, hers in origin. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Outside, the late afternoon sunlight stretched long shadows across the frosted glass panels. The quiet hum of a scanner clicked behind us, page after page feeding through. Each one another nail in the coffin of their narrative. I won't be silent about this, I said, the words coming more naturally now. I just don't want it to be a war. It's not a war, Clara said, clicking save. It's a correction, and the more public you make it, the harder it is for them to rewrite the story again. My phone vibrated. I glanced down and saw the subject line first. Account suspended, copyright dispute notification. Then the sender, Collins Academy Inc. The notification expanded. Your hosting account has been temporarily suspended due to an active copyright complaint filed by Collins Academy Inc., citing proprietary design infringement. Below that, in bold, complainant, Hailey Collins. Clara leaned over, reading. Well, she said, calm as ever. That was fast. Then she added with a faint smirk, guess they know you're not backing down. Neither did Grandma, and I wouldn't either. They blocked my platform. But they couldn't block my voice. The sun slanted through the blinds of the rented apartment, striping the floor with light and dust. The room was barely furnished. A futon, a fold-out table, a library-loaned laptop, and the worn green backpack that had followed me here. Jessie adjusted the angle of the webcam one last time, then gave a thumbs up from behind the screen. You ready? She asked. I nodded, my throat dry. No music, no background filter. Just my words, my story. The red recording light blinked on. My name is Avery Collins, I began, looking straight into the lens. And this is the last time I'll explain who I am. I didn't perform. I didn't plead. I told the truth. I started with the text from my father on my birthday, the one that broke what little glue was left holding me to that house. I explained how my laptop, the only tool I had to apply for work, was sold behind my back so my sister could get a phone upgrade. I showed the photos of the cake brought out for Hailey that same morning, with my name nowhere on it. Then I laid out the documents. Original design sketches dated 2019. Email correspondences where I sent Hailey the first draft of the diagnostic tool. The exact color palette, fonts, and layouts, side by side with the Collins Academy website. I unfolded Grandma Evelyn's handwritten notes slowly, letting the camera capture each line. All preparatory materials co-developed with Avery Collins shall be attributed solely to her. Clara had verified the signature. Jessie held the authentication file in frame. I explained the clause, the registration, the date stamps, the copyrights. Nothing I said was dramatic. It didn't need to be. When you steal someone's voice, I said in the closing minute, you hope they'll be too exhausted to scream. I stared into the lens. But paper remembers, so does the internet. We ended the clip there. Jessie posted it on TikTok with the caption, she didn't cry. She brought receipts. Then on Instagram with a carousel of proof documents. Then Reddit under r/academic scams and r/justice served. It took 2 hours. Then my phone vibrated. Then it didn't stop. Within 12 hours, the video had 230,000 views. By morning, it had passed 1 million. The comments weren't sympathy-soaked. They were furious. This is textbook gaslighting. Copyright lawyers better wake up. Hailey better explain how she stole a whole legacy. Someone tag Collins Academy's sponsors. Then came the reply that made my skin tighten. A verified account at former intern Jess commented, "I saw that document in 2020. It had Avery's name on the footer. We weren't supposed to mention it." Jessie leaned over my shoulder. "That one's about to explode." It did. Hailey's profile had gone quiet until midnight. Then she posted a single story. Some people live to destroy what they can't build. A black background, white cursive text, no tags, no names, but everyone knew. Within minutes, the comments rolled in. "Say her name." "Avery built it. You branded it. You stole from blood and buried the proof." "We're not letting this go." I turned off the screen. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't fear this time. It was something stronger. Recognition. They sent me a price to keep quiet, but I didn't sell my voice. Morning light streamed across the windowsill of my new apartment, warm and soft, like I imagined freedom might feel if it had a texture. The place still smelled like fresh paint and unopened cardboard, and the walls were bare, but it was mine. Not borrowed, not tolerated. Mine. The box came with no return address. Inside, a manila folder, a printed agreement, and a prepaid envelope. Collins Academy, Inc. proposes a private settlement of $75,000, the full removal of defamatory content, and the signing of a mutual non-disclosure agreement, NDA. I didn't finish reading. My hands didn't tremble. My chest didn't tighten. I stood, walked to the paper shredder I'd just unpacked, and fed the envelope through in silence. The hum of blades filled the room. Final. Clean. They wanted it to feel like a win, like I was lucky to get even this. Like my truth could be priced, boxed, and filed away. But I wasn't looking for revenge. I never was. I sat at my desk and typed a single line onto a blank screen, the caption for my final post. "You don't owe silence to anyone, not even the ones who raised you." Below it, I added a photo of Grandma Evelyn's letter, folded open on my desk. No tags, no dramatic music, just the words that gave me back my name. Jessie reposted it within minutes, then strangers did. Then it spiraled. Comments poured in, not just for me, but from others. I was erased by my own sister, too. I kept quiet for years because they told me I was too dramatic. This gave me courage to file my copyright. "You were the first person to believe I could go to college. You tutored me when I was flunking math. I never forgot. Thank you, Avery." Each message was like stitching over a tear I thought would never close. My phone buzzed with a new notification. This time from the very platform that had removed my account weeks earlier. Subject: Account reinstated message. "Your educational account has been fully restored. We deeply regret the mishandling of your copyright documentation and apologize for the disruption." I exhaled. No parades, no courtroom gavel. Just that stillness. The one that comes when you know the worst part is over. There were no new texts from my father, no apologies from Hailey, no letter from my mother. And that was okay. Because silence this time wasn't the sound of being erased. It was the sound of space I made for myself. The cafe was nearly empty, just the sound of espresso machines and the clink of porcelain against marble. I sat near the window, laptop open, sipping a lukewarm chai latte that had gone mostly untouched. Rain tapped against the glass like a soft metronome, but my thoughts moved at their own pace. It wasn't the settlement I remembered. It wasn't the moment of posting, or even the comments. It was the silence after. For once, it wasn't isolating. It was whole. The inbox had stopped buzzing. Clara hadn't called in 3 days. A good sign, she said. No news means no new fire. Jessie had gone back to her own grind. Midterms, tutoring, sleep-deprived rants. The world had moved on. But I hadn't. Not in the desperate, clinging way I used to hold on to scraps of validation, but in a new, measured way. The kind where you linger, just to remind yourself, this happened, and I lived it. I reopened the folder on my screen. The same curriculum Grandma and I had sketched on napkins, index cards, and late-night whiteboards. I renamed the header. For the first time, it didn't read draft. It read, The Evelyn Method, a framework for those who were never meant to succeed. I didn't bold it. I didn't capitalize every letter. I just let it sit there, quietly powerful. Like her. Someone slid into the seat across from me without asking. Jessie. She was damp from the rain, her hoodie darkened at the shoulders. She handed me a USB. Your backup, just in case. I took it, nodded. I saw Hailey's latest post, she added, unwrapping a muffin. She's moved on to health coaching now. No mention of education. Her website's down. I didn't ask for more. I didn't need to. Jessie leaned forward. You know what scares people like the most? I looked up. Not being exposed, being irrelevant. I smiled. A week ago, that sentence would have lit a fire in me. But now, it just floated. True, maybe, but no longer my problem to fix. I'm starting a new cohort, I said instead. For first-gen students. Online. Free. Jessie blinked. That's huge. It doesn't have to be. I shrugged. It just has to exist. She held up her coffee. To existing. We tapped cups. That night, I walked home through the drizzle, coat unbuttoned, face lifted to the gray sky. Every drop felt earned. The apartment wasn't fancy, but it didn't creak like the old house. No one yelled, no one barged in. The walls were quiet. Inside, I opened my drawer and pulled out the letter. The original one. The one Grandma had written, folded so many times its creases looked like veins. There was one line I hadn't really heard the first time. Not until now. Legacy doesn't mean they remember your name. It means they live by something you built, even if they never knew it was you. Maybe Hailey would forget me. Maybe my parents already had. But some kid, some girl, some overlooked student would read my framework, use my diagnostic, and find a way through. And I wouldn't need to be thanked. I'd just need to exist. She was never supposed to win. Not in their version of the story. But justice didn't need their permission to arrive. It only needed her persistence. Like the quiet reveal of ink under heat, the truth surfaced, undeniable and intact. When injustice is met with unwavering courage, the final verdict can echo through a lifetime. If this story spoke to you, leave a comment below. Like, share, and subscribe. And type 1 if you've ever been erased and decided to write yourself back in.